12 passengers, 9 fatalities, 1 overloaded aircraft. 4 generations of a family boarded a plane for Thanksgiving. Only 3 people walked away alive. What went wrong in the cockpit of this tragic flight? On November 29, 2019, Kirk Hansen, an experienced pilot, prepared to fly his family to their Thanksgiving destination. The aircraft, a 2013 Pilatus PC-12, seemed capable of handling the journey. However, as we'll explore in this video, a series of critical errors would lead to devastating consequences. The flight was set against a backdrop of challenging weather conditions. A winter storm loomed, creating poor visibility and the potential for icing, factors that would play a significant role in the events to come. As Kirk and his family boarded the aircraft, they were unaware of the dangers that lay ahead, both from the external environment and the decisions made in the cockpit. The fatal flaws in pre-flight planning. As the Hansen family boarded the aircraft, they were unaware that the real danger wasn't just outside, it was inside the cockpit. How could an experienced pilot with over 2,300 flight hours make a series of decisions that would prove catastrophic? Kirk Hansen's extensive flying experience should have been a safeguard against poor decision-making. However, a closer look at his recent flight history reveals a concerning gap. Despite his impressive total flight hours, Kirk hadn't logged any flights in the year leading up to this fateful journey. This lack of recent experience would prove to be a critical factor in the events that unfolded. The Pilatus PC-12, known for its reliability and short takeoff and landing capabilities, was designed to carry a maximum of 10 passengers. Kirk, however, chose to push beyond this limit, boarding 12 people onto the aircraft. This decision not only violated safety regulations, but also compromised the aircraft's performance capabilities. The consequences of this overloading were significant. The aircraft exceeded its maximum gross weight by 107 pounds, a margin that might seem small but can have a profound impact on flight characteristics. More alarmingly, the center of gravity was shifted 3 to 5.5 inches beyond acceptable limits, making the aircraft tail-heavy and harder to control. The situation was further exacerbated by the seating arrangement. With the aircraft overloaded, at least 2 passengers had to sit on the floor. This isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a major safety violation that puts everyone on board at risk. As one expert put it, this isn't like putting 7 people in a sedan for a short drive down to the neighbor's house. No one should ever get in any vehicle, especially not an aircraft, when there's not enough seats or seat belts for everyone on board. Kirk's pre-flight preparation took another dangerous turn when it came to de-icing the aircraft. Using isopropyl alcohol and a 7-foot ladder, he attempted to remove ice from the plane's surfaces. However, this method was woefully inadequate. The ladder was too short to reach the tail control surfaces, leaving critical areas unaddressed. Proper de-icing is crucial for maintaining control of the aircraft during flight, and this oversight would have serious consequences. These pre-flight errors, the overloading, improper weight distribution, and inadequate de-icing created a perfect storm of risk factors. Each decision on its own was problematic, but combined, they set the stage for a potential disaster. The aircraft was in a precarious state before it even left the ground. With its performance capabilities compromised and its surfaces inadequately prepared for the challenging weather conditions ahead. The departure decision. With the aircraft already compromised, Kirk Hansen faced one last chance to avert disaster. Why did this experienced pilot dismiss multiple urgent warnings about the runway conditions? The decision that followed would have catastrophic consequences. As Kirk prepared for takeoff, the airport manager approached him with grave concerns. The runway was covered in snow, creating hazardous conditions for departure. Despite his experience, Kirk seemed determined to proceed. The airport manager's warnings fell on deaf ears as Kirk insisted on taking off. The cockpit voice recorder revealed a chilling conversation that would later haunt investigators. Kirk acknowledged the presence of ice on the aircraft, stating there was a lot of ice. This admission was a red flag that should have grounded the flight immediately. Yet, Kirk pressed on, seemingly oblivious to the danger he was putting his family in. What could drive an experienced pilot to make such a risky decision? Experts point to a phenomenon known as get-home-itis. This psychological pressure to complete a trip, often intensified by family expectations, can cloud a pilot's judgment. In Kirk's case, the desire to return home after the family trip likely overrode his professional caution. The airport manager's warnings were clear and repeated. The runway wasn't clear, he told Kirk multiple times. Each warning was an opportunity to reassess the situation and prioritize safety. However, Kirk's mindset appeared to be fixed on departure, regardless of the risks involved. This dismissal of safety warnings highlights a dangerous aspect of human nature in aviation: overconfidence. Kirk's 2,300 flight hours may have given him a false sense of security, leading him to believe he could handle the adverse conditions. This overconfidence, combined with the pressure to complete the family trip, created a perfect storm of poor decision-making. The scene at the airport that day was one of mounting tension. On one side, an experienced pilot eager to get his family home. On the other, an airport manager desperately trying to prevent a potential disaster. The clash between professional advice and personal determination would ultimately set the stage for tragedy. Kirk's insistence on proceeding with the flight, despite clear warnings and his own acknowledgement of ice, serves as a stark reminder of the importance of heeding safety advice. In aviation, the stakes are too high to ignore expert warnings or to let personal desires override professional judgment. The final moments, anatomy of a crash. As the aircraft began its ill-fated takeoff roll, a cascade of errors was about to unfold. How could a difference of just 4 knots spell the difference between life and death? The next 30 seconds would reveal how quickly a routine flight can spiral into tragedy. Kirk Hansen initiated the takeoff sequence, unaware that his actions in the next few moments would prove catastrophic. As the Pilatus PC-12 accelerated down the snow-covered runway, Kirk made a critical error that would set off a chain of events leading to disaster. He rotated the aircraft at 88 knots, 4 knots below the required speed of 92 knots for the pusher ice mode settings. This premature rotation had immediate consequences. Approximately 1 second after takeoff, the stick shaker activated, signaling an impending stall. The stick shaker is a crucial safety feature designed to alert pilots to dangerous flight conditions, but Kirk's response to this warning was inadequate. Instead of correcting the aircraft's attitude, Kirk exacerbated the situation. His takeoff technique involved a heavy pull on the control wheel, resulting in a rotation rate of about 4.3 degrees per second. This was significantly higher than the typical rate of around 3 degrees per second used by other pilots, pushing the already compromised aircraft even closer to its limits. The combination of Kirk's abrupt control inputs and the aircraft's compromised center of gravity due to overloading led to a deep stall. The plane rolled to the left, further destabilizing its flight path. As the stall condition worsened, Kirk's actions created a vicious cycle. His continued pulling back on the controls, even as the stick-pusher system attempted to correct the stall, only deepened the aircraft's predicament. In these critical moments, the consequences of Kirk's pre-flight errors became painfully apparent. The overloading, improper weight distribution, and inadequate de-icing had left the aircraft in a precarious state even before takeoff. Now, with the added stress of Kirk's improper rotation and response to stall warnings, the Pilatus PC-12 was pushed beyond its capacity to recover. The final moments of the flight unfolded with terrifying rapidity. From the moment of takeoff to the point of impact, mere seconds elapsed. In that brief span, the aircraft transitioned from a controlled ascent to an unrecoverable stall, its fate sealed by a series of cascading errors that began long before it left the ground. Lessons from tragedy, preventing future disasters. The NTSB concluded that the probable cause of this tragic crash was the pilot's decision to depart in an overloaded aircraft with a center of gravity beyond limits, combined with his failure to follow proper stall recovery procedures. This incident underscores the critical importance of thorough flight planning and risk assessment, especially in challenging weather conditions. Complacency can be a silent killer in aviation. Kirk Hansen's lack of recent flight experience, despite his total hours, likely contributed to his poor decision-making. This serves as a stark reminder of the need for continuous training and maintaining current proficiency. Adherence to weight and balance limitations is not just a guideline, it's a matter of life and death. Pilots bear an enormous responsibility for the lives of their passengers. This tragedy illustrates the devastating consequences of prioritizing personal desires over safety protocols. In aviation, there's no room for compromise when it comes to safety.